It's exciting now. It's pretty exciting. And when I say now, I mean right now. I mean in the last 6 weeks, I've seen things start to change significantly. And I know that there's some questions later about what that means about future deals, so I don't want to touch on that yet. But fundamentally, what I'm seeing is venture capitalists are very anxious to put money back to work, largely because they think the IPO market's opening up again. So the way venture capital works is venture capital becomes very confident when they see an exit. And when they don't see an exit, they tend to be pretty conservative. And so what we've seen lately, of course, with a number of IPOs, forget Google. I mean, everybody's watching Google as if it was the brightest star in heaven, and it probably is, but there's an awful lot of stars out there right now. The number of IPOs and companies waiting for IPOs, lined up for IPOs, in the technology field is growing very rapidly. And so there's a confidence, and there's a lot of money on the sidelines in the venture capital business. There's what's called an overhang, which means that the limited partners, the institutions and individuals, have committed large sums of money to these venture capital funds that still has to be reeled in. You know, there's a chit on the table. Venture capitalist calls you up and says, actually sends you a fax and say, write the check. And there's a whole bunch of faxes yet to be sent and checks to be received. So there's this overhang of capital. There is an opening of liquidity in the markets, which is creating some confidence. And there's excitement about a whole range of what I call sort of first-tier technologies. What we saw in the late 90s with the internet was a step function change in technologies. And step functions happen very seldom. They happened with the PC. They happened with new media, CD-ROM, et cetera, in the early 90s. They happened with the internet. To some extent, they've happened now with wireless. Those step functions happened, and you can almost chart it. Every time there's a step function change in technology base, it becomes a speculative environment because people just start speculating about what's the potential. And you'll see markets sort of begin to get ahead of themselves. Then there's always a cooling off period as people sort of become discouraged because the potential doesn't materialize immediately. And then the work begins. And I saw this in the late 80s in particular with the PC. A lot of great companies, the Compaqs of the world, the Suns of the world, these companies were built after the bloom was off the PC rose. And when people actually had a very clear target, technology target, to begin to build value off of. And so what we're seeing right now is the internet is that platform, wireless the next level. And that's now a very well-known, understandable technology platform. It's very well honed. It's changing, but it's changing incrementally. So now you see the industrious startups begin to build value off of them. And we're seeing lots of, everything from e-commerce to various different ways of managing more and more data on the networks. We're seeing on the wireless side a great threat to the telco industry as we see voice over IP phones and all sorts of services off the top of those. And we're seeing lots of interesting things in places like energy. And you might say, well, what about energy? Why would energy pertain? All this stuff, batteries are critical to how all this stuff works. If we're going to make things smaller and mobile, and we're going to make them multifunctional, if we're going to put cameras in phones, then we better figure out how to increase the power. And so we're seeing it in power. We're seeing it in batteries, in power. We're seeing it in various forms of network and networking using more and more data. We're seeing it in wireless with both a threat to phones, and the phone industry, as well as an integration into media. We're seeing a lot of value get created. So it's an exciting, really exciting time.